Hi, it's Mike Reese. I've been writing for The Simpsons for 30 years. I ran the show in seasons 3 and 4. I created The Critic. And now I've written a book. It's called Springfield Confidential, and it is the first insider's look at The Simpsons. It's filled with secrets, scandals, and tales of censorship and celebrities. It's a great book. It's like a Simpsons episode. It's fast, it's smart, and it's packed with hundreds of jokes, some of them funny. Please buy Springfield Confidential. You can order it now on Amazon.com.
Hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Best Darn Diddly Review Show. This is a weekly podcast for anyone who loves The Simpsons or ever has loved The Simpsons, hosted by two dudes that grew up on The Simpsons. My name is Miles, better known as MrMostDaysOff, and today we are not necessarily saying that all women are evil, but we are saying that this woman we're going to be talking about, or girl that we're going to be talking about today, we're discussing Bart's girlfriend. It originally aired on November 6, 1994, and we've got a lot to dive into, but first, joining me as always, your co-host with the most, Richie the WizKid. How you doing today, Rich?
I'm intrigued to see where this conversation goes today with your opening there. We might lose the female audience after today's episode, but I hope that's not the case.
I said might be evil.
I never realized who actually did the voice of Jessica before I did the notes for this. It just never occurred to me. It didn't sound like her to me really that much. So I think that's going to be something interesting to talk about too. But before we get there, I better throw it back to you, the man, the myth, the Devil's Cabana boy. It is Miles.
You know, like you, I also was surprised to learn the voice actress for Jessica, Academy Award-winning actress Meryl Streep, playing the even more of a hellion child than Bart, Jessica Lovejoy. And I've got to say, there is something to this character that is delightfully evil. She does a wonderful job with that very soft, little bit raspy, there's just this faint touch to it that makes it seem somewhat sinister in a weird way.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's actually very, very commendable that you don't recognize that it's Meryl Streep. I think that just speaks to her ability to do voice acting for this episode, that it doesn't occur to you at any point that it's actually her. And I just want to say, I know this is a joke from the get-go, but she must have got nominated for another Oscar for this role, right? I mean, that's just the only way, that's the only thing that makes sense, right?
That's how it works. and they don't just give those away, like
especially the
Grammy
TV
Awards.
shows.
Yeah, totally. All right, jackass. I actually do have more to say about Meryl Streep and her recording the voice of Jessica, but we're going to save that a little bit more for towards the end of the podcast because, quite frankly, the DVD commentary just doesn't have a whole lot of insight on this one. It was a commentary that featured David Merkin, Jonathan Collier, who was the writer of this episode, and I believe it was the first episode he wrote. Susie Dieter, the director of this episode, is a woman we've talked about in the past. She had the very funny story when she was talking about the field trip when Bart gets famous, how they went to a box factory, and she argued for the fact that it's supposed to be boring. I've always enjoyed that story from Susie Dieter.
That's such a funny argument to begin with, and it makes perfect sense.
It makes complete sense.
It's so easy, it makes sense.
Common free lunch enjoyer David Silverman also jumped on this DVD commentary. We learned that that's how it works from Mike Reese last week. Of course, Matt Groening is actually on most of these DVD commentaries, but a voice you don't actually hear a lot other than when she is giving life to Marge Simpson. Julie Kavner was on the commentary, which was very interesting. Though a lot of times I find that with the voice actors, sometimes you get good stories, but a lot of times you just get a different insight. Doesn't necessarily lead to good trivial facts that are fun to bring onto the podcast.
Well, you mentioned Matt Groening being on here again because he likes to do a lot of them. Have you heard about his new show that's about to debut on Netflix here?
I have read about his new show. If you ever got on Twitter, you might have noticed me tweeting about that a few months ago. It's an interesting fantasy series for adults that's going to be exclusively on Netflix.
I'm pretty sure I retweeted that one too a few months ago, but it was all over social media yesterday. That is, of course, as we say every week, we record in advance, but they've had the screenshots blowing up in the last 24 hours. Because it's supposed to debut here. I forgot what day it was. Oh, I was going to write it down too. But yeah, it's about to release on Netflix. I'm excited for it, man.
That and Arrested Development Season 5 all coming at us very soon. It's going to be a good month for binge-watching television.
Hashtag Netflix support us.
Yeah, we need the sponsorship for real. Like that.
I think we lost them last week in our discussion with Mike. But this week we'll
back. Yeah, we're gonna win that battle back. We're going for the Netflix sponsorship.
They'll sponsor anything.
Yeah, maybe we call in. We'll be approved. We'll just try. We'll just tell them we have a new show called Sponsor Us.
I like it. It's like Shark Tank, but good.
All right, enough of this nonsense. Let's dive into this episode today. Like I said at the top of the episode, we are talking about Bart's Girlfriend, originally aired November 6, 1994. The chalkboard gag on this one is, I will not send lard through the mail, which, ooh, gross.
Yeah, it paints a pretty straightforward picture.
It really does. The couch gag on this one is one that we've seen before, but we both really like. We first see a dark black screen, then a set of eyeballs appear run through on the couch, and then as the lights turn on, an eyeless Simpsons family runs in to catch up to their eyeballs.
Aw, how sweet.
What's not to love? We open the actual episode with the kids crawling in Veterans Park. We see a sign named after some veterans.
Oh.
The kids are actually playing a game of cowboys and Indians, and they're getting really into it. We have a great little conversation between Bart and Lisa. Remember, Bart, dances in underwear. We take the white man alive.
All right, thanks too much. It shall be so.
From the other side of the field, we see Milhouse dressed as a cowboy. Keep your eyes peeled for Injuns. Native Americans. They're after us because we gave them those blankets infected with cooties.
I ate all my caps.
Bang!
Ouch!
The kids finally have a confrontation where they're playing cowboys and Indians. There's actually a really great joke here because Milhouse at one point calls out, why do we even have to play this corny old game? I brought my jacks. Twosies!
And then the poorest kid in all of Springfield has the most advanced weaponry.
Yeah, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, does it?
No, it doesn't.
But Nelson does, in fact, assault both the cowboys and the Indians. He's more or less dressed as an android, it would seem, or at least he has some dope headgear to aim. Yeah, Terminator's good. I love that Bart calls him out, though. That's not fair, Nelson. They didn't have the Killmatic 3000 back then.
Hey, records from that era are spotty at best.
And you know what? He is not wrong about that.
Cable could have traveled back in time during those times. We don't know.
Someone just saw Deadpool. But I do love that you see the onslaught of Nerf-style darts and arrows and things like that. And it's very reminiscent of when you were a kid, you knew somebody who always had the biggest, baddest Nerf gun. And you'd have the Nerf fights, and there would be a lot of fun. But there was always that one rich kid on the street who had, the dopest of dope Nerf guns at all time.
See, we would always pile all of our weapons in the middle and select teams, and then we'd divvy up the weapons evenly.
We would do that too, but this one particular little rich fucker that I was talking about would, he'd be like, no, I want to keep my gun. And we'd be like, well, fuck you, you're not playing.
Wait, if because I don't remember who the rich kid was in my neighborhood, does that mean I was the rich kid with the cool Nerf toy?
Oh, shit, you probably were. You were the douchey kid with the best gun. But no, if you dropped it in the circle, then you're fair. Then you're good to go. Because, that's the way to do it. You do almost like a draft style system where you go through and you select weapons so you get a good primary and a good secondary weapon. And then, of course, none of that really matters. What really matters is who gets the best fort.
Yes, well, and who's the fastest. I didn't really care for the weapons at that time because if someone got captured, I was always the quick kid that would get sent in to tag them and get them back into your base.
Nice.
Man, I want to play. We should do an adult Nerf war. I think they do sponsor that in one of the areas near us, by the way.
I've seen those before for sure. Yeah, I bet that would be a lot of fun. We should totally do that.
Everyone come join Best Star and Diddley for a Nerf war.
Yeah, we'll set the time and place, and if you're free to come to North Texas, you come right along. We'd love to have you. But back to The Simpsons, we see the kids' good time is interrupted when we hear the church bell begin to ring. All of the parents start yelling out from the distance, "Time for church! Time for church!" And this quickly turns into a parody of Planet of the Apes, which, on the commentary, Dave Merkin actually talks about this, and he wanted to be explicitly clear. This is referencing the 1968 Planets of the Apes, not the 2001 Planet of the Apes. But it is a scene that is directly taken from that, where they're rounding up the humans. In this case, they're rounding up the children, who are all very distraught at the idea that they're going to go have to sit through a lousy sermon. Bart even declares on the car ride to church, "Why the crap do we have to go to church anyway?"
You just answered your own questions with that commode mouth. Besides, you kids need to learn morals and decency and how to love your fellow man.
Immediately we hear a sermon from Lovejoy. "With flaming swords, the Eremites did pierce the eyes of their fellow men, and did feast on what flowed forth, among whom also we all once conducted ourselves in the lusts of our flesh."
Good old church.
To be fair, that actually sounds like a sermon Bart would be interested in. They're talking about, like, dismembering people and shit.
Except he brought a little toy along to help pass the time.
He was too busy trolling, you might say.
Yes.
I actually like he's got a blue-haired troll doll, and he's making it dance, singing, "I'm a troll man."
I don't want you playing with something that has such bizarre hair. Awful, awful hair.
This is a great shot because we are holding it, or seeing it from a perspective, I should say, where you can tell from behind both the troll and Marge's hair are almost identical. They're just vertical spikes of hair.
Of blue hair.
Yeah, blue hair specifically. You're totally right. And also, why is Marge just so upset with the idea of something with odd hair? Like, it's such a bizarre joke, but it's very funny and somehow very in Marge character.
Awful, awful joke.
And this is where Bart, for maybe the very first time ever, gets interested in church. Because Reverend Lovejoy announces that his daughter Jessica, who has just returned home from boarding school, is going to read a passage. The same passage that he just read, actually.
I noticed a few of you weren't paying attention.
Bart initially is groaning, but as soon as Jessica walks up, it's almost as if a light shines down from heaven itself and lights up her face. Bart is instantly infatuated with this girl, but maybe it's not quite as mystical as we might think, because it turns out that, I guess, just across Springfield, we see the sea captain having an argument up in a lighthouse. The sea captain is shining the light inward towards the land, which happens to be shining in the church of Springfield and right onto Jessica's face, while the other person is arguing, saying it would work a lot better if we shine the light out to sea.
Arr, shut up. I know what I'm doing.
Just then a boat crashes into the rocks.
Arr, I hate the sea and everything in it.
So, to be fair, the sea captain really did know what he was doing, it would seem. He's just a little bit snapped at the moment.
There you go.
Back at church, we see that it's actually let out at this point. Mrs. Lovejoy is saying goodbye to everybody, and Bart is just still longing for Jessica. He won't stop looking at her, and he's actually talking up the courage to go talk to her.
Yeah, he actually makes the first move. Good for you, Bart.
Yeah, he gets the guts up, he walks over, he introduces himself, he compliments her reading of the passage. It seems like he's actually making a pretty good move, but unfortunately, all he gets in response from Jessica is, "Thanks, Art. I have to go over here now."
Ugh.
She just slightly turns away, which is, oh my god, so heartbreaking. I just can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't imagine because I've been there, but
especially with the girl from church.
Oh, and the getting the name wrong and just all of it.
Yeah.
There's so many layers to that. Now would be a good time to talk about the inspiration for this episode. I'll go ahead and let you take a guess. Who do you think was the initial writer of this episode? It was Collier that put it together, but whose idea was this, would you say, Richie?
Schwartzwelder.
It was actually David Merkins, of course, because in his mind, he wanted to think of somebody worse than Bart to be the inspiration for Bart's girlfriend. And also, he said he's always, for whatever reason, been into really bad women. It's like a temptation he just can't resist.
I can see that. They do a good job of portraying why Bart goes back to her after stuff starts happening. So it's you totally understand why Bart does everything he does in this episode, except for maybe the very last moments.
Yeah, it's mostly very relatable. I would absolutely agree. I think, unfortunately, I can speak for most of the guys I know, at least. We've all at some point been in puppy love and done something stupid.
Well put, sir. Well put.
So Bart is obviously crushed by this reaction to Jessica, or from Jessica, and even Lisa can see that her brother's hurt. She tries to comfort Bart and, let him know it's not really his fault that she doesn't like him.
Is it my hair? My overbites? The fact that I've worn the same clothes day in, day out for the last 4 years?
More like 6, but
Yeah.
No, Bart, I just think you and Jessica are too different from each other to get along. She's a sweet, kind reverend's daughter, and you're the devil's cabana boy.
But my thing is, I never think of Bart as having an overbite until I hear this line, and I always forget about it until I watch the episode again, and it just makes me feel so much worse for him every time you hear it.
It's very sympathetic very quickly, absolutely. Unfortunately, Bart's response is something that you should never do, and that is he tries to completely change himself for the chick he's into. He puts on his Sunday best, and he shows up to Sunday school, which immediately puts the teacher into a panic. I actually like first, before Bart enters the room, the teacher's helping Ralph and has to explain to Ralph that Jesus did not have wheels.
According to the song, he takes all the wheels, so okay.
But when Bart does show up, it interrupts the teacher, and she's immediately like, Bart, we banned you from Sunday school. You were happy. We were happy. Everybody was happy, particularly the hamster, who is cowering in fear at the sight of Bart Simpson.
To be fair, that hamster had devil eyes, though. They were really red.
What did Bart do? I want to know.
Have you seen that South Park episode? Lemmy Winks?
Wow. Oh. Bart's
But he
like
made
10,
it out.
dude.
I didn't say it was Bart's butt.
That is the most gratuitous use of the word butt I have ever heard, young man. But either way, the hamster is absolutely terrified of Bart, regardless of what he did. But Bart has claimed that he has changed his ways, and he really wants another chance, which the teacher admits the Bible is in favor of, so she welcomes back their prodigal son.
What's prodigal mean?
Oh dear. Bart's an opportunistic child, so he manages to grab a seat right next to Jessica, and immediately he tries to start a conversation.
You know, the great thing about Sunday school is we're finally learning something we can use.
Yeah, so true. I have to turn my chair this way now. And she just, once again, slightly turns away from Bart, making it very clear she's not interested.
Somehow I gotta convince her I'm a good person. Alright, I have to sit here and behave no matter what.
And wouldn't you know it, God's plan just wasn't in Bart's favor today, because for whatever reason, it was a lesson on David and Goliath, and the teacher felt it would be best to hand out an actual replica of not only the slingshot, similar to what David may have used to slay Goliath, but also a stone that would just be the perfect ammunition to shoot from said shot. And immediately, I love this too, as she's passing around, she announces, I'm just going to be bent over looking in this file cabinet, essentially pointing her butt right at Bart, who almost instinctfully, it doesn't even seem like he thinks about it, as he picks the slingshot up, it just almost loads itself and his hands go into a shooting position.
Yeah, Jessica just doesn't give two craps about the slingshot and hands it straight to Bart.
And Bart's just into it immediately.
Must fight Satan. Make it up to him later.
Shout out to Satan, the producer of the Secret Transmission podcast. We're still hoping to work out a deal with the Dark Lord himself to really take this podcast to the next level. Bart actually did manage to resist temptation miraculously, and instead starts up another conversation with Jessica. You know, I was considering staying after school and helping teacher clean up.
Do you ever think about anything you don't say?
Ooh, burn. And a question I've been asked often, personally. So Bart's upset that it seems no matter what he does, he just can't impress Jessica. He was wearing his Sunday best, but he kind of undoes his tie and loosens up the collar, smears a little dirt on him just to, make it feel right. And he's decided that he needs to find something to get himself in trouble. And wouldn't you know it, it just so happens to be Scotchtoberfest, and Willie is giving a presentation on the kilt.
Now the kilt wasn't only for day-to-day wear. In battle, we donned a full-length ball gown covered in sequins. The idea was to blind your opponents with luxury. Apologies for my Willie accent.
So, while Willie is giving this great speech about battle ballroom gowns, Bart finds a bundle of balloons and clips them to the back of Willie's kilt. Of course, his kilt rises, he's not wearing any underwear, but Willie's response here is absolutely fantastic.
Ah, 'tis no more than what God gave me, you Puritan pukes.
Preach, brother, preach. We've all got one or the other, and everyone, or at least most people, have seen each, so it's not that big of a damn deal. But Bart's decided that's at least gonna hold him over enough till he can get his hands on some explosives, and he leans back almost proud with his arms crossed, just leaning against a tree. Except it's not really a tree. If you've ever seen Legends of the Hidden Temple, it's essentially the trap where the temple guard is hiding inside the tree and grabs the contestant. In this case, the temple guard is actually, I guess, a detention special agent working for Skinner, who there's a whole team of people with radios and disguises, and it seems like a very expensive operation. Also, Skinner gets the pleasure of saying, "Congratulations, Simpson. You just fell for our sting and won yourself 3 months detention. There's no such thing as Scotchtoberfest."
There's not? You used me, Skinner! You used me!
That's great. So Bart's down in the dumps. He now has 3 months of detention just for that one little prank. And everything seems to kind of suck right now.
The sting wasn't the only thing Bart fell for that day, right?
Ooh, yeah, good one. Until, however, while he's sitting there moping, Jessica approaches and actually says, "Hi, Bart. I saw the way they set you up. That was really unfair.
Oh.
Want to have dinner at my house tonight?"
Really? Sure.
Great. We eat at 7.
There's only one thing to do at a moment like this. Strut.
I love this bit of animation they do right here. It's one of the classic images you will see online where Bart with his pulled down collar on his Sunday best, and he's just there's no other word to describe it. It is strutting.
Well, you can tell by the way he walks.
You can tell by the way he walks. And on that note, shout out to our boy Ripkin from the Derailers podcast, who, after losing a toe and mangling the shit out of his foot, That boy is walking. So, Ripken, here's to you getting back to strutting, my friend.
I want you to dress up just like Bart and just go out on the town, buddy. You deserve it.
Broadway style!
Yes!
Bart struts so hard, though, that he actually struts us all the way to the commercial break in the end of Act 1. So we are going to take a quick break and hear from some other podcasts from the Somebodies Podcast Network.
Are you afraid of what goes bump in the night?
Have you or your friends ever pondered a conspiracy?
Do you want to know more about the unknown?
If so, then put on your tinfoil hat, sit down, and pick up your computer, tablet, or phone. Go to iTunes or YouTube and search for Secret Transmission Podcast and listen to us try to explain the unexplainable.
My name is Patsy the Angry Nerd, lover of sharks and science.
This is Ashes Von Nightmare, the mistress of Merlot and real housewife of Transylvania.
And I'm Ancient Nicole, the Ironborn and Goddess of Giggles. Join us each and every Thursday as we discuss all the characters you love and love to hate.
That's right, we go in-depth in our discussions of origins, the things that make them unique, and their contribution to pop culture and society.
We also incorporate them into battles that showcase their skills and talents. All this, plus Patsy's Science Fact, the Von Nightmare Vineyard Wine Recommendations, Agent Nicole Files, and more each week on Throwdown Thursday. Be sure to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spotify, and don't forget to follow us on Twitter at TD Thursday Pod. And we will see you next Thursday.
To start out Act 2, we see Bart is getting ready for his big dinner date with Jessica, and Homer and Marge look on and couldn't be prouder. It's kind of a fun little role reversal here, though, because Homer is actually the one that really seems to be almost giddy about the fact that his son's getting ready for a date.
I can't believe my little boy is already going on his first date. Sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset. Cats in the cradle and the silver spoon. Yes, we have no bananas.
Oh, that's sweet, Homer. Our son is growing up, isn't he?
No, it's not that. Didn't you hear? They have no bananas. They have no bananas today.
Oh, Homer, how I love thee.
Takes everything that's media censored, or any form of media he takes so personally. It's like he's an American citizen.
No. Very quickly, we're off to dinner at the Lovejoys, where Mrs. Lovejoy is asking Bart how school is going and mentions that Jessica always gets straight A's.
Well, in my family, grades aren't that important. It's what you learn that counts.
6 times 5. What is it?
Actually, numbers don't have much use in my future career. Olympic gold medal rocket sled champion.
I didn't know the rocket sled was an Olympic event.
Well, no offense, lady, but what you don't know could fill a warehouse.
Young man, explain yourself.
Which, to be fair, you definitely need to know numbers to be a rocket sled champion.
Yeah.
Let's be clear about that.
That's absolutely true. But Bart is doing his very best. He might not be the smartest boy in school. I don't think he's going to impress Jessica's family with his book smarts. But, you know, he is very charismatic and he can tell a good story. He even starts to talk about something charming that he saw while watching Fox last night. I heard a rather amusing story. This character named Martin was feeling rather randy, and he was heard to remark,
BAM! Don't you ever come near my daughter again. Never have I heard such gratuitous use of the word but.
But.
Make him stop! Make him stop!
That gag right there is a strong contender for one of my favorite jokes. I don't think it's my favorite because I always do this, but that one makes me laugh every single time because he's just trying to defend himself. And it's not the first time that things are misunderstood from Bart in this episode.
What I love about this moment is, like, even as a child watching this, you get that joke and you get that moment, and you always felt smart for getting it.
Yeah. Did you watch Martin at all when you were a kid?
No.
I watched a little bit. It was no Fresh Prince, in my opinion, but they used to come on UPN back to back, and I would most often watch both. But yeah, it's definitely a raunchy show, one that you would see more in line with like a Married with Children, late night Fox, early days type of stuff.
What I like about it is, you alluded to this isn't the first time or the last time we'll see this bit. The one I always enjoyed was when Milhouse and Bart are fighting, and Milhouse goes, "Mom, Bart said a swear," and she's like kicking him down the stairs. And he's like, "Damn it, ow, shit." Well, he didn't say shit, but like, I always enjoyed that one too. I think it's the Bone Storm episode possibly, or the Sell the Soul episode, one or the other.
I think it is the Bone Storm episode, but yeah, we'll definitely find out when we get there.
Yeah, it's just that one cracks me up too.
Once again, Bart is down in the dumps and feeling dejected, and everything's looking pretty rough for him in this moment until once again Jessica approaches. "You're bad, Bart Simpson."
No, I'm not. I'm really...
"Yes, you are. You're bad, and I like it."
"I'm bad to the bone, honey."
"Let's go find some fun."
"But your father said..."
"I told the Rev I was going to my room to say my prayers."
"Smart, beautiful, and a liar. So much better than that Sarah, plain and tall." Such a random joke.
That is like one of the most just out of the blue, what the hell. I believe Sarah, plain and tall is a character of a children's book series, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, we had to watch the movie in one of my elementary school classes, and it was Sarah, plain and boring, pretty much.
That's sad. I've honestly never seen or read or really know any
I don't
reference
remember what happened at all.
But I just Googled it, and I think I saw it was a children's book.
I have no recollection of what happened in that story, one bit.
The commentary even said on this it was just a very bizarre and random joke, essentially.
So Bart's figured out the way to Jessica's heart.
And for just a moment, we get a scene that's somewhat reminiscent of when Bart and Milhouse go crazy Broadway style during Springfield. It's not the exact same bit. There's no original song here, but we see a montage of Bart and Jessica essentially running wild around the town in very mild ways. And it's actually to the music from Pulp Fiction while they're out doing their thing with Uma Thurman and John Travolta.
Which also has a kind of ice cream part to it.
Oh, there you go. In this case, we see the two kids very earnestly loitering directly under a no loitering sign. And then they go and eat ice cream right in front of the window of a weight loss center while there's a bunch of very large women on bikes, which, oh, how mean is this joke? Super, super mean. The music goes from that funky Pulp Fiction style to more of a angelic melody as Bart is clearly falling deeper and deeper in puppy love with Jessica. They're TPing the Jebediah Springfield statue together, and Bart is just about to lose it in general. He sees Jessica flowing, something more beautiful than he's ever known, and he just can't get over how the toilet paper is almost like an extension of her arm as she throws it over the statue.
Which it takes a lot for Bart to do something bad to the statue at this point, right?
Yeah, he didn't learn his lesson on that one. He's got a lot of personal
issues with the statue. I think he's just so much in, like you said, puppy love that like it's okay for this to occur now.
Yeah, I think that's
throw all my morals out the window for this girl.
He's doing a lot of things that are out of characteristic for her, or attempting to. I mean, he tried to completely change his personality, so it's trying to show there's very few, if any, lines of what Bart's willing to do for this girl at this point. And the next day at school, he's very excited to tell all his friends. He's got Milhouse and I think Jimbo and Kearney and Nelson. A couple other of the kids are just hanging out around the jungle gym with him as he talks about how he's dating, he went out with Jessica, I could say. Of course, they don't believe him. Milhouse even says, "No way would a minister's daughter go out with you."
"Oh, yeah? I'll prove it." "Hey, Jessica!"
"Yes? Am I supposed to know you?"
"Jessica, we just..."
"Ugh! That's for besmirching an innocent girl's name." Nelson just punches Bart right in the stomach.
Why?
Bart's sitting on the ground in pain, and as, once again, it seems like everything is just going terribly for Bart, Jessica approaches another time, this time to say, I'm sorry, Bart. You know my parents can't find out about us. And besides, if it's secret, it's even more exciting.
I guess.
Hey, you want to go skateboarding?
Actually, I was hoping I could sit down for just a second.
Come on, it'll be fun. And then Jessica leans over and gives Bart a kiss on the cheek. And if you've ever watched Popeye the Sailor Man eat a can of spinach or me rip a bong, you know exactly how Bart looks and feels in this moment. He stands up, he flexes, and he proudly declares,
Wow! Now I have the energy to do anything! Oh, just give me 2 minutes.
Merkin points out on the commentary that this is his favorite joke in the episode because he just loves the realism of if you've ever been punched in the stomach. In TV and movies, it's far too common for people just move on and be fine, but it really fucking hurts, and it lasts for a little while, and it usually is something that you're not just going to spring forth and go immediately get back to your activities unless you're a boxer or fighter or somebody who trains otherwise to do so.
Or a movie star that had somebody else get hit in the stomach.
Right. But by God, is Jessica got a day planned for these two. We go to the top of what seems to be an impossibly tall hill, and Bart is very nervous. It's very clear as he looks down this hill that this could go very, very poorly. He even says, Jessica, I think this hill is too steep.
Bart, you can't trust your perception at this altitude.
Again, another contender for one of my favorite jokes. Not quite there. I think it came in second, I decided. But good lord, you can't trust your perception at this altitude, which, by the way, is immediately followed by we'll call it an assist at getting started down the hill. Others might view it as what's known as a push.
As assisted suicide.
And immediately, Bart is flying down this hill, and at first he's scared, but then he realizes, you know what, this isn't bad. As long as the road maintains its surface integrity, I think I'm gonna be all right.
But then there's an oil truck that's leaking on the side of the road.
So Bart goes into a crazy slide and just barely manages to land it, essentially, and get back to the pavement through the slippery oil, which would still be on the wheels for a while down, for what it's worth. It would make the rest of this ride more difficult.
But wait, Miles. There's also a truck filled with ball bearings on the side of the road coming up.
This is terrifying. Like, how he makes it through there. Oh my, that is like suicide. I don't skateboard, but I do rollerblade, and I hate, like, the little acorns and little balls and little things like that. They are just the absolute worst.
He likes big balls.
And I have taken some of the most awful spills I've ever taken because of little things like that. Not specifically ball bearings, but I just can't. Ball bearings would be one of the worst things to try to skateboard through.
This is one of those where, like, the older you are, the more you're like, as a kid, you're like, oh yeah, that would really suck. But just thinking about it now, like falling, and even falling on the ball bearings, that whole thing is just terrifying.
Yeah, absolutely. It is fucking terrifying indeed. That's again, you can't tell, or you can't explain just how tall this hill is. It would be very, very scary in real life. Fortunately for Bart, though, not only does he make it through the ball bearings, but there's also a glue truck up ahead, and that, if nothing else, is going to safely bring him to a stop. Only, while the glue truck is in fact on its side, it seems like the part holding the glue is completely fine. In fact, there's two employees there. One said, "Is the glue leaking?"
No, that glue ain't going nowhere.
So Bart just zips straight on by and finally is like, oh god, nothing's going to stop me. And then we get a glimpse down the hill to what's going on closer to the bottom, where a single ant is carrying a single sunflower seed. And even though he made it through the field of hazards, this one seed hits his wheel just perfectly to the point where it launches Bart down the hill violently. To make it even worse yet again, at that point we hear from above,
"Oh no! There goes the glue after all!"
And just then, Jessica skates down into the glue where she safely slows to a stop and looks as if she doesn't have a bead of sweat on her, which makes me think, how fucking great of a skateboarder is Jessica?
No, she just followed Bart's tracks.
Yeah, but Bart looked panicked the whole time, and it seems from the way the way Jessica is poised that she was perfectly calm the entire time.
Well, she gets off on the adrenaline rush.
Yeah, I guess so. And completely toying with men.
I enjoy in the segment when Jessica actually stops, you see Bart laying on the road completely covered in glue. And when she's like, "That was fun," you just see Bart's bubbly glue mouth going. Blah, 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 blah.
Oh my god, the animation for the glue bubbles is absolutely fantastic.
It was
You're
perfect.
absolutely right. I'm so glad you brought that up. I had a note on that I almost skipped over. We then cut back to the Simpsons' home, however, where Bart comes in with Snowball 2 glued to his back, and Marge is a little bit concerned.
Have you noticed any changes in Bart?
New glasses?
No. He looks like something might be disturbing him.
Probably misses his old glasses.
I guess we could get more involved in Bart's activities, but then I'd be afraid of smothering him.
Yeah, and then we get the chair.
That's not what I meant.
It was, Marge. Admit it. And this is my favorite joke in the episode. I love this so much, where Homer is taking this with a smothering, I should say. He takes it completely literally, and you can tell he's clearly at least thought it over.
And glasses?
Who his child doesn't wear, by the way.
None of his children wear glasses. Yeah. Outside of Grandpa, no one in the family wears glasses. But I found this moment, honestly, like, looking from a storytelling standpoint, this was a little misplaced scene-wise, I feel like. I feel like they must have thought, we haven't had too much of Homer in this episode, and we need to give him just like a quick little moment here. Because, I mean, it's a really funny moment. It's a really funny joke, and I laughed when I heard it, but I thought, it was just kind of odd that they just went to that, because it has like no relevance really on the story.
I don't know. I think it makes sense because it brings us from Bart being out to Bart being back at home. And it does, I mean, to your point, it does just get the parents involved a little bit. But that's a perfectly good reason, I think, to have them there. I think Marge would legitimately be concerned about Bart in this situation.
Yeah, I just feel like they wanted to get a Homer joke in.
It's very possible. Homer's one of their most popular characters. They probably do try to make sure he's featured as much as possible.
Way to get analytical with it, Miles.
Whoop whoop.
Or accountant-wise?
Huh?
Yeah, you're accounting for Homer in this episode. You're an accountant.
Am I? Does that mean I get to shoot sniper rifles and
absolutely
get secret paintings?
Yes.
Like a Jackson
secret paintings
Pollock.
that are very famous and everyone would notice all the time? Yes.
When Bart arrives at school, he's immediately greeted by Jessica, and you can tell Bart's starting to be a little bit weary at this point. He kind of is like, we should probably just go to class.
What's the hurry?
We could get in trouble for being late.
Ugh, you worry too much. Come on, if you stay here a while, I'll let you hold my hand.
And we get this long pause where Jessica and Bart's hands meet, and they just kind of hold hands for a moment, and it's beautiful, and that's how the story ends. Bart and Jessica fall in love and live forever, happily ever after.
Bruised internally.
Or not at all, and almost instantly Jessica drags Bart's hand to the fire alarm, pulls the handle, and proudly declares that they're doing this together. Or teamwork. Come on, Bart!
With that evil laugh before that.
What I predict is going to be your favorite part of the episode comes up next, and it's absolutely fantastic, so it'd be a strong and worthy contender. But we get another fantastic Groundskeeper Willie scene, which we had a great feature of him in Treehouse of Horror 5 last week. We get him featured twice in this episode. Lots of Willie action right now, and everything the dude says is gold, just like that. But he, in typical Willie style, is playing the hero when he hears the fire alarm goes off.
If I don't save the wee turtles, who will?
He kicks down the door to the science lab and runs in, again, like a majestic man of heroic proportions. But then almost immediately we see him fleeing the room with probably a dozen or more little tiny turtles attached by the mouth. Too. Yeah, they're snap, 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 and they're all over Willie's body.
Ah! Save me from the wee turtles! They were too quick for me!
Am I right? Is that your favorite joke in the episode?
No, my favorite joke in the episode is the last line, I think.
Ah, fair. Okay, fair. Hopefully that was at least a contender, or I, feel like our friendship is a sham.
Just because it involves turtles?
No, it's just Groundskeeper Willie. I know that you usually really get a kick out of him going into hero mode.
I get a kick out of him going into hero mode, but I like... My favorite Willie moments are when he's yelling at Skinner, because it always sounds like he's yelling some huge profanity. But he's always like, you tie-wearing educator, man.
You pom-pom-bottom panty-wear.
And it's always like not bad at all, but it sounds terrible.
Yeah, totally. It seems like they got away with it, Bart and Jessica, that is, but Bart is actually just kind of at his wit's end. He confesses to Lisa what happens, and Lisa's a little bit shocked and almost doesn't even believe him at first, but I guess she can see it, that she's like a milk dud, sweet on the outside, poison on the inside.
That's a very true statement.
Yeah, be careful with your milk duds out there, people. Or milk duds are delicious and sponsor us, milk duds.
Yes.
Either
one or the other or both.
I'll edit this accordingly to how Milk Dud responds.
I don't think it's Milk Dud. I think it's the company that makes Milk Duds.
We'll do some research and figure out who that is.
Is that Nestle? I don't know.
It probably is Nestle. Yeah.
Or Mars.
It's probably in a roundabout way owned by Disney, if we're being honest.
Yep. So Disney sponsor us, you damn mouse.
Yeah. You evil bastard. That's a good way to get a sponsor.
BD's nice. Nope, let's go.
Well, Lisa is now fully on Team Bart, however, even though Bart's idea to deal with the situation is like, I'll just put up with it for like 7 more years, and we'll get married, and then when the first baby comes along, she's bound to settle down and start treating me right. I mean, after all, I deserve it. Only
how many times have people used that line of thought in life?
Well, it's really funny because Lisa responds with like how ridiculous that is. You can't. It's naive. She says that you can change people, but then she immediately goes into a fantasy about the boy that works at the library, who's somewhat rude to the patrons, but very well read.
Ooh, if only somebody could tame him.
You're right, Lise. Love isn't about fixing someone. I'm just going to give her up cold turkey. I'm not going to talk to her or ever see her. It's over. Thanks for the advice, sis. Lisa's just still thinking about this bad boy librarian. Bart is ready to make a plan. He immediately goes up to his room and he sets a calendar. He knows he just has to get through this many days, and I think he marks it off from April 1st all the way through June 30th. And as long as he can go without seeing her for that time, she'll be completely out of his system. All right, here we go. Day 1.
Time for church, Bart. I bet your little friend Jessica will be there.
Go!
The thing I like about that gag, though, is the way that they shot it, so to speak, is it's just a close-up of the calendar, and Bart's ready to clear it. I just have to go this many times without seeing Jessica, and he starts putting X's on the calendars, and it looks like he's been going weeks and months without seeing Jessica. And then when he finally marks off June 30th, that's when he's like, there, if I can just get through this many days without seeing her, we should be completely out of my system. Okay, day 1. And then he circles the first X from the first day. So you thought he'd gone forever, but he hasn't even made it a day yet.
They like tease it as if it's like one of those slow motion montages where we're passing through a lot of time, but then it turns out, no, Bart just has a really unusual way of marking days.
Gonna double up on it.
Really good though. And unfortunately, day 1 is going to be rough, because as soon as he arrives at the church, there's beautiful music playing, and Bart's instantly drawn. He even says, Lise, she's already drawing me in with her beautiful siren song. Only, it turns out that it's actually just Ned Flanders singing falsetto.
That's very disturbing. So not only does Ned have a woman scream, he also has a woman singing voice. We're learning a lot about Ned this season.
We are learning a lot about Ned Flanders.
With very little screen time.
Yeah, that's true. You know, it's funny, though. He makes a big impact with his character development in these little moments.
It was like Mo last season.
Once again, as soon as Bart walks into the church, he's immediately greeted by Jessica, who he's trying to avoid, and she's sitting on the back row of the pew and kind of drags him to sit next to him. Bart immediately says, I don't think we should really hang out together anymore. You're turning me into a criminal when all I want to be is a petty thug.
Oh, good. Here comes the collection plates.
Homer's very excited about this because he planned ahead. He brought a 30 cents off of Shake and Bake coupon that he proudly places in the collection plate to Marge's disapproval.
30 cents off Shake and Bake? Homer.
We can spare it, Marge. We've been blessed.
Love his enthusiasm.
Meanwhile, on the back pew, Jessica admits to Bart that he's probably right, and she's been too reckless, and from now on, she's gonna settle down and be less bad. And that's almost immediately followed by her taking the collection plate that's very full and stuffing it into her purse, I think it was.
Jessica, what are you doing?
Well, it takes money to start a new life.
Stealing from the collection basket is really wrong. Even I know that.
Fine. You just lost your cut.
Then she straight up walks away.
Yeah, she just leaves him empty
basket for Bart.
Yeah, and Bart's literally sitting there, again, the last person to touch the collection plate, and it is completely empty. Jessica didn't leave anything in it, which is really dumb. If you're going to steal from a church, leave a few bucks so they think that they got theirs. But
everyone's just cheapskating him that day.
More importantly, immediately Mrs. Lovejoy points Bart out as a thief and draws everybody's attention to the back row.
Everyone turn around and look at this.
What is it, a Unitarian? Bart, though, at first he has good thoughts, but then he does eventually panic, which leads to his demise here, because he could have just stayed and everything would have been fine if he would have just, opened up his pockets. But instead, he starts talking himself through the situation. Just relax. For once, you didn't do anything wrong. Just explain yourself, and everyone will understand. And then the first word he actually says aloud, I
took the money? Yes, we know. He confessed.
Bart's like, okay, and he immediately runs and flees and jumps out the window. And I love, there's a classic Homer bit right here, because as soon as Bart is already made the run down the aisle and actually leap through the window and is now outside, Homer has a great line.
Stop him! He's headed for the window! That was one of my favorite lines.
Brilliant moments where it really shows you just how Homer's brain works. It's just on a 7-second time delay, as if the network's worried he's going to say something inappropriate.
Yeah, it's fantastic though. That one really got to me.
It's really good. Unfortunately, I feel like this was the biggest problem with the episode, and it's just that I think Bart's smarter than that. I understand that he panicked, and I understand it'd be really intimidating when you had that many adults accusing you of something terrible like this, but he literally could have been like, dude, look, I don't have any money on me, I didn't take this, it wasn't me, and they would have had a hard time, even with it being Bart Simpson, trying to figure out a way that he hid the money or something.
Yeah, but let's be honest, though. He knows his reputation. It's the girl he's really into, and he's got all these mixed emotions. It's her mother that's pointing him out as the thief. He doesn't know how deep this runs, Miles.
Well, and that's a good point, too, that he does adamantly not want to turn Jessica in, and it would be really hard to declare himself innocent without being like, the last person who handed this to me was Jessica.
Yep. There's way too many emotions, so it's easier to just run from your problems.
Well,
it's a metaphor, Miles. It's a metaphor.
I understand it's getting a little bit too emotional for you right now, Richie, so we'll go ahead and take another break, let you compose yourself, get everything back together. We'll hear from some sponsors, and we'll be right back with the conclusion of Bart's Girlfriend. Hey, WizKid, did you hear the news?
No, I didn't, Mr. Most Days Off. What's up?
Well, right now, for the entire month of February, You get 20% off on all orders at popthreads.com just by using our discount code Simpsons at checkout.
That's horrible.
No, man, that's great news. What do you mean?
They're only going to give you 80% of a t-shirt? The humanity.
No, WizKid, you get all of the t-shirt. You're just going to save 20% on the order. You still get the whole enchilada.
Whole enchilada.
No, there's no enchilada. I'm talking about t-shirts. You get to save money on your t-shirts at popthreads.com. You're going to get the whole t-shirt enchilada.
Whole t-shirt enchilada.
Just go to popthreads.com and use our discount code Simpsons at checkout so you can save 20% on all orders for the entire month of February.
Popthreads.com. Note, popthreads.com does not sell enchiladas.
Greetings, friend. Do you wish to look as happy as me? Well, you've got the power inside you right now, so use it and send $1 to Best Darn Diddly. You can find us on patreon.com or donate to us directly on PayPal at bestdarndiddly@gmail.com. Don't delay. Eternal happiness is just $1 away.
$1 for eternal happiness and to support one of my favorite podcasts. I'd be happier with $1.
Things have turned quite serious back in the Simpsons home when we return for Act 3. Homer and Marge have Bart sitting on the couch, and at first Homer tries to have a heart-to-heart with his son.
Son, if you can look me in the eye and say you didn't take the collection money, that's all I need.
I didn't take it.
Why, you little... How can you look me in the eye and lie like that?
Homer, stop it! I believe him!
Tell me, if he didn't take the money, why is he wearing those fancy clothes?
That's what he wore to church.
Oh, how convenient.
Bart? Honey? Do you know who did take the money?
No. See, son? Telling the truth isn't so bad. Completely oblivious to the situation.
Oh, I love it so bad. Homer is, just completely unable to read his own son, which, I mean, that can happen to anyone. It's just such a perfect dynamic between these two. And again, Bart is really caught up in a rough place right here because, again, he truly didn't do it this time, but he also doesn't want to turn in his girlfriend, or, even if he doesn't want her to be his girlfriend anymore, he doesn't want to turn her in.
It's not his girlfriend. He does want her to be still, or else he would turn her in.
True, that's probably the truth. And it's even worse that the entire town has really turned on Bart. I mean, as soon as he walks outside, people are yelling out, "Crook! Thief! You stole the money from the collection plate!"
As the guy's passing by the car, "Steal the money from the collection plate!"
Bart once again finds Jessica. This time she's actually twirling a baton, which on the commentary track, the animators talked about how much fun that was just to have this additional prop to help animate her emotions and help animate her actions here between her and Bart, which I thought was interesting that this simple prop makes their jobs apparently easier, is what they had to say.
And from a storytelling standpoint, it makes sense. It gives her purpose to be outside. If she was just like standing out there, walking around, you'd be like, well, why is she even outside? But she's outside practicing. She can throw it as high as she wants to. And it gives Bart the opportunity to talk to her without her parents being right there.
I feel like when we were kids, there was a lot of girls twirling batons all the time outside, like as playtime. And I, don't ever see little kids twirling batons outside anymore. I don't know if it's like a lost art or just something that like there's better toys now or what the deal is. But
well, no, it goes into color guard later on. Like, I knew a lot of women in color guard when we were in high school.
Yeah, but, like, do you ever drive through a neighborhood and see anybody doing that now?
I don't drive through neighborhoods. I'm an adult male, and that would look suspicious.
I live in a neighborhood, so I come in from and to my home
It's just
every day.
The way you worded it, though. Do you ever drive through neighborhoods and look at little girls?
It's not weird to drive
batons?
through a neighborhood. I mean, like, you visit friends, you go to places where, like, people live in a neighborhood. Like, it's not fucking weird.
It was just the way that you said it. Everyone on Twitter let Miles know that I was right here.
Yeah, please, let us know. Am I the creeper here, or is it him? I'm really confused at this point. It's probably both. But either way, Jessica definitely is twirling a baton, and it does give Bart the reason, or at least the reason she's outside, so he can approach her. And he says, we've got to talk. Look.
Listen, thanks for not turning me in. That was sweet.
Well, it seems like if you really care for me, you should come forward.
Oh, don't you see? It's because I care for you that I can't come forward.
That doesn't make any sense.
All right, then I just don't feel like it, okay?
Jessica, you're really beautiful, but you're not very nice.
Duh.
You know, with the way you're treating me, why should I protect you?
Because if you tell, no one will believe you. Remember, I'm the sweet, perfect minister's daughter, and you're just yellow trash.
Huh?
Which, that line...
Weird line, right?
Yeah, that line, like, it really kind of just like a knife in the heart, right?
I don't know if I describe it as a knife in the heart. I think it's really funny, but it's really interesting, and it kind of breaks the fourth wall of the Simpsons universe in a lot of ways.
What I enjoy in that little exchange is that Bart is audibly starting to come to terms with who Jessica is, and like he's working it out like in front of her, and instead of doing it in his mind, he's actually saying the lines where he's like, you're really beautiful, but you're not a very nice person. And and the fact that he speaks it out loud makes it true for him, like, completely, I think. Whereas before he could do mental gymnastics in his mind to trick himself into still liking her and doing what she says. But when in this scene is when he's finally starting to separate himself from that, I feel like.
And Bart clearly needs some time to reflect and think about all of this, that he's starting to chip away and learn about Jessica. He's taking refuge in his treehouse when Lisa finds him, and he has to explain it's literally the only place he can go in town where people aren't harassing him.
Thief!
Jasper appears at the treehouse window, which is like the funniest choice of somebody who might climb the treehouse to harass Bart. He just shuts a little blind and closes off the world the rest of the way.
An old man with a walking cane, by the way.
Lisa starts to say, we can't let Jessica get away with this, but Bart is pretty much at wit's end. He's just like, give it up, Lisa. She's a criminal mastermind. She's got 108 IQ. She reads at the 5th grade level, and her hair smells like red Fruit Loops.
This might be my favorite line of the episode, honestly. I forgot about
a
this
Lisa
one.
line.
Yeah. Will I eat Fruit Loops for breakfast?
That is a really great line. You're absolutely right.
I completely forgot about that one until we were doing this, but I love that line.
Well, it's time for church once again. We're going to see
It's time for Lisa to eat breakfast.
It's time for Lisa to eat her Sunday breakfast. That's right. We get to Reverend Lovejoy talking about, because of last week's problems, we've taken a few precautions during this week's collection. And poor Bart is in a metal trap. Basically, it's the Silence of the Lambs thing where he's like on a dolly and he's got a metal cage around his face. It's total overkill. And even Marge kind of points out that, we really shouldn't have let them do this. It can't help his self-esteem.
Oh, why did you let him do it in the first place, Marge?
The offering does go around, and Lovejoy even implies that they're going to keep an eye on Lisa just because she's Bart's sister. Talk about guilty by association.
Yeah, well, she's coming up front to give a little speech, and that's when Lovejoy references that.
Yeah, true.
Offertory reading.
It's now for our offertory reading, Lisa Simpson, who we'll all be keeping an eye on.
I know most of you have already judged my brother guilty without any proof, but doesn't the Bible teach us? Judge not, lest ye be judged, Reverend?
I think it may be somewhere towards the back.
There is someone among us with a guilty conscience. After much soul searching, I decided it would be wrong of me to name names, but I urge that guilty person here, under the eyes of God, to come forward, to confess, and save yourself from the torment of your own personal hell.
This is another contender for best joke right here. We get Skinner, Abe, and Dr. Hibbert all just overridden with guilt and then forced to confess. Ah! I smelled some marijuana smoke in Vietnam!
I was the one who canceled Star Trek!
I left my Porsche keys inside Mrs. Glick.
That one's a little fucked up
That's
because
super fucked up.
she's the old lady that died a few seasons ago.
Oh.
Isn't that the old lady that let Bart do chores?
Oh, shit. That's even darker. Wow.
Isn't that Mrs. Glick?
It might be. We're going to have to fact check
Am I right?
that.
Is that Mrs. Glick?
We need to fact check that for sure. If you're out there listening,
From
Google
3 Men in a
this
Comic Book?
and tweet us, please.
Does that mean this procedure is what killed him and the keys are what killed him?
I mean, having keys inside of you can't be good for your longevity, I'm thinking. Even if they are Porsche keys.
But yeah, I wrote that note down because I want to know if that's that old lady that died. Because they actually reference her dying, too.
Yeah.
In one episode.
He actually really does have a good reason to feel guilty then, unlike the other two. It seems like there's a lot of people in Springfield who have something that they're eager to confess because they're overridden by Lisa's words. So she backs up and points out, I am talking to the collection money thief. Only you can come forward and end this injustice. We look around the crowd and you can tell Jessica is unaffected by these words. She could not give a rat's ass about what Lisa is saying. So Lisa kind of has a meh, fuck it moment. What the heck? It was Jessica Lovejoy. Probably another one of the greatest Homer lines in the episode. To the little girl's room! And the whole mob takes off to this 10-year-old girl's bedroom, which is super weird. And you think just driving through a neighborhood is odd. Mo uses a car jack, it would seem, to prop up Jessica's mattress where the money is revealed.
That's child's play, Jessica. For someone as smart as you should know not to hide the money there.
Yeah.
You put it under the giant T.
Yeah, exactly. I do love, though, that Mo is able to identify that money is the collection money because it smells like church.
Oh, yeah. Smells like church.
And then Reverend Lovejoy immediately tries to cover for his daughter. I guess it's obvious what's happened here. Bart Simpson has somehow managed to sneak his bedroom into my house. This is, of course, met by crickets and nothing but blank stares, until Reverend Lovejoy encourages, come on, use your imagination.
No, Dad. I did it. It's your classic cry for attention.
Well, young lady, I suppose we brought you home from boarding school a little prematurely.
I was expelled, Dad. Remember the pipe bomb, the Glee Club brawl? Remember the school chapel collection plate?
Bringing in the
exact same
sheaves,
thing.
Bringing in the sheaves.
Exploding toilets ring a bell. Come on, Dad. Pay attention to me. We're going there.
Reverend Lovejoy just plugs his ears and starts singing until Marge actually points out that the entire town owes Bart an apology.
Sorry. Bart's still in the Hannibal Lecter thing too.
Yeah.
He can't move.
He's just being wheeled
you hear
around.
him going uh-huh.
No problem.
He's being really nice about it.
Very
He's
polite.
No problem.
It seems that Jessica has finally gotten her comeuppance when Bart sees her scrubbing the steps of the church. She thinks Bart's just come to watch her suffer, but Bart's like, no, I just wanted to, let you know that even though this was a really difficult experience, that I learned a lot. I'm a little wiser and a little less naive.
Well, I learned I can make men do whatever I want.
Well, don't you see, Jessica? Then you really haven't learned?
Would you finish scrubbing these steps for me?
Will I? Vroom, 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 vroom.
Hey, Jessica.
Coming.
And it's the dude that Lisa was all dreamy-eyed about earlier, the little boy from the library.
The bad boy librarian ends up hooking up with the bad girl reverend's kid.
Poor sucker. It's amazing what some guys will do for a pretty face. Not me, though. Wait till she sees the second-rate job I do on these stairs.
And Nancy Cartwright here laughs as Bart for a really long time, and it's this really hearty, joyful laugh. It's really good, honestly. It's one of those times where you just know that it's why they go and actually get a take for every individual laugh and don't just cut in old ones, because it feels really authentic. And that's actually how we fade to the credits. In the end of the show, we see that Bart is justified in his own mind that doing a half-assed job of Jessica's punishment is somehow getting back at Jessica for being kind of a shitty person. But that is going to do it for Bart's Girlfriend. Richie, was there anything else that you or that book of yours want to point out?
Well, like I said a few minutes back, I really enjoyed the last line of this episode in particular because Bart was winning at the end, and then he kind of backtracks into almost a loss. But like you said, in his mind, he's actually winning here. When in all reality, Reverend Lovejoy will have seen the steps have been scrubbed, and he'll be like, okay, good job. But Bart thinks if he just does it half-ass, that's going to get her in more trouble. And I love, it's very Simpsons, isn't it? The way that the episode ends there.
It's a good reset, for sure.
And the joy in the line is just what makes you happy about
the read, like I said, with Nancy Cartwright is just fantastic there, and that absolutely gives this ending a good Simpsonian happy ending to some degree. It's a great reset, and I think ultimately too, it's just funny. Worst case scenario, even if she has to redo the job, she only has to halfway redo it. So it's just so dumb on so many levels, but it works for Bart and the character, and the fact that even though he's become much wiser, he still has quite a bit to learn.
But other than that, my guidebook, The Simpsons: A Complete Guide to Our Favorite Family, points out that this is the second time a Hannibal Lecter type restraint was used. It said there was one in Marge versus the Monorail, which I couldn't quite remember fully on that one, but they said there was one in there. And then also we didn't talk about the marquee on the Springfield Community Church where it said "Evil Women in History" from Jezebel to Janet Reno. So it was a fun episode, man. It's I don't always have fond memories of the ones where Bart falls in love, but this one, it's again, there was something about the fact that it was Meryl Streep really made me pay even more attention this time, just because it boggled me so much that I could not remember that it was her or ever even realize that it was her in this. But it makes you respect her a whole lot more too, because she totally pulls it off.
Absolutely. Meryl Streep, obviously a very talented actress who brings a lot of life to this role. And Jessica is a great foil for Bart in this to play off of. Since you brought it up, I did say I had a little bit more to say about Meryl Streep, and that was that they wanted to try to do a group recording with this, but unfortunately with timing, it just wasn't able to work out. However, she was able to record with Nancy Cartwright in the same booth, who she had the majority of her scenes with anyway. So it worked out pretty well there. And Dave Merkin just reflecting on working with these two in the sound booth, and just instantly they had this connection, and it was almost like, I mean, they're both very clearly professional women who are very, very strong actresses, and they brought a lot of energy and life and realism to the voice work with these two having scenes together. And I think that's absolutely shows true that you can really, while you're watching this episode, it actually has an emotional impact on you in a way that only The Simpsons somehow always finds a way to bring to the table. Even though it's a very funny episode, it once again pulls at your heartstrings in an unusual way. For me, I think it reminds a lot of us, a lot of guys I know at least, and I can't speak for women because I've never been a little girl, but I would imagine there's similarities.
So far.
Yeah, best, not in my life so far. But no, I would imagine there's a lot of similarities where when you have that first crush, or maybe not even your first crush, but you have a crush that doesn't necessarily lead down a good path, but it still doesn't make you feel any differently about it. And
yeah, because he liked Ruth Powers initially before this, like last season or the season before, so it's not his first crush, but it's the first one where like he was actually getting reciprocated feelings, he thought.
Right. And he also learned a valuable lesson that, you know, you got to be careful with your emotions.
Women are evil. Oh, wait, no.
Oh, bringing it full circle to the top of the show. That's going to do it for this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. Make sure you follow theWizKid at theWiz_kid23. That works on Twitter.
And he's at MrMostDaysOff. That's right, we know each other's tags. Follow at Best Darn Diddly. That's DIDDLY. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook. Check out our YouTube channel. There's some interesting stuff on there, guys.
Hey, maybe consider supporting the show on Patreon. That's patreon.com/bestdarndiddly. We've got some cool rewards and goals and all sorts of stuff on there that you can check out, and that can really help us out a lot. But more importantly, keep listening to the show. Keep telling all of your friends and family members, people that you don't like. I don't really care. Anyone with ears and an iPhone or cell phone or way to listen to a podcast. Let them know we're here. Turn them on to the show. Hopefully we can grow this audience together.
Listen to Best Darn Diddly or go to hell.
Thank you again so much for tuning in to this week's Best Darn Diddly Review Show. The WizKid and I are going to be strutting into next week's review of Lisa on Ice.
And just remember, everybody, we're sweet like a milk dud, which means we're also poison on the inside.
And until next time, be cromulent to each other.
What up, everybody? This your boy B-Rob, the host of the Random Ramblers with Rob podcast, to where we have random guests and we have random conversation. I don't know why we're saying we, because it's just me, but I guess it's we in the sense that I have a guest weekly, airs every Sunday and everything. So I guess it's we like that. We French. So check it out. Go to randomrobcast.com or check me out on Instagram at Random Ramblers with Rob, or Twitter at It's B-Rob, ITSBROB. Whoa.